Hey everyone, welcome to the channel if you're new and welcome back if you've been here a while. I want to discuss something that I do think a lot of mixed people have went through or at least might understand, especially if you're mixed with white or you're half white. And it's the subtle remarks that some white people might make that are kind of racist or at least a little bit stereotypical, and they make them to mixed people as if we're not mixed with black or mixed with Asian or some other admixture other than white. But there's this commonality that some white people might feel with people that are half white because there is that familiarity. But it's also, oh, well, you're mixed, so you don't really count. And it's the weirdest thing because I have encountered it many times with different racist remarks or that would be considered racist, where, put it this way, they wouldn't say this to a full black person that is unambiguously black or an unambiguously Asian person, but they would say it around someone who is more racially ambiguous or just white because it's safer. They don't feel like they're going to have any conflict when they say that. And what I mean is that a lot of these people that say certain racist or stereotypical comments, they've never been checked before. No one has ever said to them, hey, that's wrong, you shouldn't say that, or that's racist, and put them on blast. Because usually the people that make subtle racist remarks haven't been out much. They haven't been around other non-white people, or they are just really that ignorant. And sometimes that's really the case, and you just have to let them know if they say it in front of you. Now, I can't speak for all mixed people, but I know for me, every single time I've ever encountered some type of racist remark or stereotype that wasn't true or that put people that were non-white in a bad light, I would say something about it. A lot of the conversations or remarks that I've heard has to do a lot with black hair or looking a certain type of way or acting a certain type of way. So I've had two comments about hair, one about black men's hair and black girls' hair, which is actually funny because I haven't heard until that day. I never heard anybody talk about black men's hair, but of course I've heard about people talk about black women's hair. But this girl in particular, we were talking about men. This was back a few years ago, and she was just talking about her dating history. And she said she found black men attractive as far as their face goes, but when it comes to their hair, she didn't like it. There was just something about it that bothered her. That was her words. It bothers me. I asked her, what does she mean by that? And she said, well, it's just rough. That was her words. And she also happened to be really Christian and conservative. And so I said to her, well, you know, Jesus's hair was very similar to black men's hair. He didn't have straight hair like you perceive him or how the church might perceive him in certain places. He was not a white man. So his hair more than likely was curly or kinky. Historically, even if you look at the facts. She kind of gave me this look, not like she didn't believe me, but it was like a shocked look. And then she said, well, I didn't mean anything by it. I'm like, well, maybe you didn't. That wasn't your intention. But to say their hair bothers you, it's one thing if you just you're not attracted to that hairstyle or whatever it is, but that is some form of racism or texturism that you're saying, because you wouldn't like it if someone said, well, white men's hair bothers me. It may not be as hurtful to you if someone said that because historically white men and their hair hasn't been on display of discrimination. But black men, it has, and black women, it has. And so as a white woman, you saying this is wrong. So I had to school her. Of course, she apologized. That was something that she had to learn. She's never had a conversation with someone where someone put her in her place like that. There was another time in high school when I was getting to know all these different people because it was like the beginning of the year. And there was this group of girls that were sitting at a table and I'm talking to them. Most of them were white, and then one girl was actually from India. And that's the one who asked me where I was from that started this conversation. Because she was like, well, hey, I'm from India. And, you know, where are you from? Are you South Asian or are you Latino? And I said, well, actually, I'm mixed. I'm black, white, and Cuban. So, yeah, the Latina part is a part of my mix. And she's like, oh, wow, that's so cool. And I told her, yeah, I love Indian culture. I actually used to dance classic Hindi with a group of friends. So she's like, wow, so we're talking about that. And then one of the white girls that was at the table with us that was just listening, she said, wait a second, you're black? And I said, well, yeah, I mean, I'm mixed with black. And she's like, I would have never guessed that. You are so pretty. Okay. What does that mean? And she's like, oh, no, I'm just saying you're like so pretty and you don't look black. And I had to, the way that it came out, it just sounded really weird. And I said, why are you saying I would have never guessed that you're black? You're so pretty. Like, why is that together? Like, are you meaning for that? Or are those two separate things, but they just happen to be together? So I had to have her explain it. And she got so red. And she's like, no, I don't mean it like that. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I don't know. I just never seen anybody, like, you're just so pretty. Like, I can't believe it. And I just didn't think that you were black because you don't look black. And you don't look like most of them. I just was like, oh my God, this gets worse the more that I was talking to this girl about it. She kept inserting her foot in her mouth every time she would try to explain herself. I was like, girl, just stop explaining it. But just know that that was super weird and super racist. You may not be trying to be racist, but by saying that I'm so pretty and I didn't know you were black is like weird, because why didn't you say I didn't know you were Latina, or I didn't know you were white even? Like, why would you have to say I didn't know you were black, but you're so pretty? Now, if she would have said, I didn't know you were white, you're so pretty, that might have still been weird, but I just did not like the whole mentioning being black. She didn't mention anything about the Latina side. She didn't say, oh my God, I didn't know you were Latina. So it's just weird things like that people will say in front of us, where they may not think that we're going to get that offended because we're not full black. For some of us, like for me, I know that I don't really look black. Like, I think that some people can tell if they really know, like they can look at certain features. But for the most part, I understand what I look like. But it doesn't take away that I am still mixed with it. And I still get easily offended when people say things that are racist towards black people, especially when it comes to their looks. I really don't like that. Another incident that happened was with a guy that I was dating for a little bit. So obviously in the beginning, we were talking, went out to eat, and he was asking me about myself. He was from Eastern Europe. And I told him that I was mixed with black, white, and Cuban, and blah, blah, blah. So we had that discussion, no problem. Everything was good. Later into the relationship, like a couple months in, he revealed to me that he really doesn't like black people. Like, he would make little remarks about how black people act in certain settings. And I would say certain things to him. They don't all act that way. Like when he would say things like they're so ghetto, and he owned a restaurant. So he would be around different people all the time. A lot of people from his country would come into that restaurant, but it was also like a really popular place. Of course, black people and other people would come too. But he said every time black people come into his restaurant, they just seem to get all ghetto, and he doesn't like it. And one time he had to actually kick somebody out who was black because they were yelling and cursing. I wasn't with him at that time, of course. I didn't know about that incident, but that's what he was telling me. And I said, but you're stereotyping because a few people that happened to be black did something bad. There are bad black people. There are good black people. There's bad white people. There's good white people. And this guy was like, I don't even like people from my own country. So they're just savage. But he said, but I mean, I just don't like them. And I said, well, you do know, you remember, right? I am part black. And he was just like, but you don't look black, so it doesn't count. That is so annoying. I know what I look like, and I may not look like a typical black person or even a typical mixed person, but it really gets on my nerves because I don't care if I looked full white with blonde hair and blue eyes. You don't say those types of things. So, of course, needless to say, we broke up. After that, I was done because there's no way that I could date someone who doesn't like black people. And what's funny is, even though I don't necessarily look black, but every time I ever dated a guy that wasn't black, the first thing I asked them is, how do you feel about black people and black women? Because I don't look that, but just if they had any type of animosity or they said something that I didn't like about them, I instantly would cut them off. And there's a lot of people, believe it or not, that say some weird stuff about black people, rather it's subtle, covert, whatever, doesn't matter. And like I was saying, you have to let them know up front that it's wrong. And if they continue to do it, cut them off. Some people really don't know. And some people, they know exactly what they're doing. Like the guy that I dated, he knew exactly what he was saying, and he did not like them. And he didn't change his mind. He was a whole jerk about it. And I broke it off with him. He didn't understand because, quote unquote, I don't look black. So to him, I'm not black, but I was, because I have relatives that are and that look like these people that you're saying you don't like. But it was just crazy. And I just wonder, when it comes to being mixed, if a lot of you have dealt with these weird, subtle comments that people feel comfortable saying around us, but maybe not necessarily around someone who's fully of that race that they're talking against. I would have some white people talk about Muslims, for an example, that are from other countries, and the things that they would say, because I'm not mixed with Middle Eastern, but my husband actually is. And they would say all of these crazy things about them. They feel so comfortable making comments around mixed people. I know that maybe some mixed people may not correct them, but it is up to us. If some white people feel a certain type of way that they can say things around us, it is our responsibility to at least nip it in the bud and let them know, hey, that's racist, and not to let it slide. Because I know some people might let it slide or might be so dumbfounded that they can't believe that it happened. And I know people have been there, and that is a valid feeling. And I think I remember hearing about Sophia Richie, Lionel Richie's daughter, where a lot of people didn't realize that she was Black, and that people would make comments about Black people, not realizing, because she's really white passing. I can tell she's mixed, but she's super light, and her hair is light too, like that blondish. So by first looking at her, you wouldn't even guess that her father's Black. I had read somewhere a few years back that people used to make comments around her that were racist towards Black people without realizing that she's also half Black, or forgetting that she is because of the way she looks. Because that's also a real thing, where they might know, like the ex-boyfriend knew because I told him that I was part Black, but because I didn't look it, he forgot or just didn't care, and even told me, you don't look it, so it doesn't count. That's a real thing that happens in these communities. If they don't see Blackness, they're just going to treat you as however they see you. And if they want to say something that's kind of racist, they will. Sometimes, not all. And you just have to let them know. But anyway, has that happened to any of you? Am I the only one out here that has dealt with that? I'm sure there are some crazy stories where you all have dealt with some covert, subtle racism from white people as a mixed person, and they feel comfortable telling you. But let me know, and if you resonated with this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.